Well, coronavirus is a typical virus. Obviously you're hearing a lot about it in the news and the media and locally and those kind of things. But the virus is just your regular old virus under the coronavirus species, and very similar to the flu, but works differently genetically. It's a little bit different.
Welcome, Acadiana. I'm Jim Keaty, and I'm here with one of the most distinguished doctors in Lafayette who works with the Lafayette General Hospitals, and he's also happens to be my doctor and my brother-in-law, Dr. Bradley Chastant. Welcome, Dr. Bradley.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you for bringing me out here.
Yeah. So, man, we're here talking about coronavirus. It's all over the place. It's all over the news. It's really dominating every conversation that we're having right now.
Absolutely.
So what is your take, being in the medical industry? I know you guys are dealing with it, on the front lines. Before we get into it, what is the coronavirus?
Well, coronavirus is a typical virus. Obviously you're hearing a lot about it in the news and the media and locally and those kind of things. But the virus is just your regular old virus under the coronavirus species, and very similar to the flu, but works differently genetically. It's a little bit different, but basically, just the name of it, it's more of an upper respiratory type of virus that we've been seeing out lately.
Well, you said, so it's a species of viruses. Is that?
Well, sure.
What does that mean?
Well, there's different types of viruses. There's your influenza virus, obviously. They have the rotavirus that affects the GI tract. They have the adenovirus, the rhinovirus. There's just different types of viruses, GI viruses, lung viruses, blood viruses, all those kind of things. So this one's just more of an upper respiratory type of virus.
Okay, so it's in a category. So there's other coronavirus
Absolutely,
strains.
Yeah. So this happens to be the strain 19. We already know about coronavirus. It's been around for a long time, and in fact, we do screen in the hospital for other types of coronavirus. Just so happens to be coronavirus or COVID 13 through 18. This one's just a new variant called COVID 19. That the unique thing about it, the reason this got so much sensationalized hype about it, so much sensationalism behind this virus, is because it's reached worldwide.
Right.
Worldwide. It's global. It's a pandemic, so it's one of the first ones we've seen in a very long time, and for a lot of reasons, more so because we can get on a plane and fly to any kind of country within hours. So transportation, the ease of transportation has been making this a little more of a global problem, and so that's why it's got it into a pandemic type of situation. Otherwise, it's not as potent as some of these other viruses, thankfully, but we're seeing it on a global scale right now for that reason.
So we're talking about like not being as potent. What are some of the characteristics of this virus versus other ones? I mean, other coronavirus.
Well, they do act very similarly to the other coronavirus species, but this one just happened, obviously to gain a lot of media attention, national attention, international attention. But a lot of the symptoms with this is an upper respiratory thing, low-grade fever, cough, shortness of breath, and obviously very sick people with a lot of medical conditions that are at risk for worsening of the symptoms are going to be your higher risk population. So a lot of the other unique thing too, we're not seeing much infection in children or pregnant females.
Right.
Thankfully, that's the case, but more so you're seeing this virus more in the older population above age 50, 60, with a lot of other what we call comorbid medical conditions. And so those are the ones that are higher at risk. But as far as its potential for problem, it's going to be a problem here. It's just a matter of time. We've already seen potential cases here in Louisiana. I think maybe one confirmed case here in Louisiana, but as of yesterday, there was over about 33 cases of presumed COVID-19 cases, and I think this morning it was up to as high as 50. So and by tomorrow, maybe as high as 100. Maybe you're going to see a big old.
So it's coming.
It's coming. It's a matter of time. It is going to cause some problems, but for the most part, you and I and our major population is going to be of at little risk. You may be in contact with it. You may develop some mild symptoms, but you're not going to see Well, you may see some Well, you will see some hospitalizations, but in our case, we're going to be at our lower risk. We may get some mild symptoms, but for the most part, it's going to run its course and do its thing.
So when you're saying risk, you're saying like if I get the virus, I'm at low risk, and so that I'm wondering, do a lot of people probably have the virus and don't even know because it's
yes.
so mild?
Yes, that's the latest gossip right now with the medical community and the infectious disease community, or not community, but the infectious disease docs here in town. I had a big old meeting with them yesterday, and we had that discussion too. There's probably a lot of people that have been in contact with it and never knew it.
Yeah, so like you said, children and healthy people, pregnant women, they may not even know they have it because the symptoms might not be as
right. And now, if they're carriers of this and having the actual virus but not having any symptoms, they may be the ones that actually transfer to other people. So when the city shut down all the schools for a month, they're trying to decrease the amount of possible transmission, whether it's kids, whether it's contact from somebody else, and then they spread it out throughout the community or throughout school, this and that. Those asymptomatic patients may be the ones that transfer to a higher risk population, like
Sure.
an elderly, nursing home, whatever.
Right.
So the little kids like to go kiss their grandma.
Right, exactly. And what I was thinking about that, I was like, man, why are they shutting everything down? Because it seems like it's impossible to get rid of it completely.
Right. No.
What's the purpose of shutting everything down? Is it to eradicate it, or is it to just?
It's to slow the transmission rate, and you can never be too proactive. This is something new that we're all dealing with from a national standpoint, international standpoint. We do want to decrease the amount of spread, so this is one way to kind of decrease the amount of potential exposure to anybody else. Some people have asked me, is this going too extreme? We'll never know until the end. Now, obviously, some people are not very happy with having kids home for a month. But again,
Right.
In the end, if you avoid hospitalization, avoid sickness and this and that, then, taken care of.
When you start looking at, somebody possibly dying, it's worth doing whatever you can
Right.
to prevent that. But it seems, because we're going to live with this virus forever, I would assume, from this point forward.
Yep.
And from what I've seen in the news, it's like if we can just slow it down so it doesn't stress our hospital staff and
Right.
our facility, because you still have your normal patients.
Right, and exactly. You just have to treat this just like the flu. The flu is much worse than this virus.
As far as the symptoms.
The symptoms, prevalence, a lot more hospitalizations from the influenza virus as opposed to this. More people, more deaths from this virus. More populations involved. Older, younger, pregnant is not very picky.
You're talking about
the influenza. Yeah, right. So the influenza is a much more deadly, potent virus compared to this one. Right. So the reason I bring that up is to treat this like the flu. If you normal hand washing, decrease the amount of exposure, big congregations, gatherings, and those kind of things will decrease the amount of transmission, just like the flu. Practice good hand washing. Don't, hand to mouth, keep that to a minimum.
Like we stopped making out.
That was a sad moment.
Yeah. So tell me, we're talking about the symptoms. Like, what if you do contract it? What is the first few things that you're going to start to feel like? What are you hearing from people and patients?
Well, as far as symptoms, fever, little chills, shortness of breath, cough. Usually very mild, almost kind of like allergy type symptoms,
right.
With a little fever on top of it.
Everybody here
has. Right. I've already gotten a few phone calls in the office saying that they've been exposed, this and that. All we're recommending right now, mild symptoms. Go home, quarantine yourself for about 2 weeks. If you start running high fever or get significantly short of breath, then you need to be addressed. But as far as most of the time, for example, Tom Hanks is hanging out in Australia, tweeting everybody saying he's fine. Right. He's got the virus. So that's going to be mainly what you're going to see. But yeah, if you're starting to run low-grade fever or even high-grade fever, cough, significant shortness of breath, call your provider. Try to avoid the emergency room. Try to avoid the walk-in clinics because you do not want to expose some of those other people that are in the hospital that are sicker.
That's a good point. Yeah, I never even thought about that.
Unless you're yourself real sick. And so what we're saying to people that call the office is that if you've never heard of this coronavirus and are feeling the way you are, do you think you need to go to the emergency room? So, and if the answer is no, then don't go to the emergency room. Just stay at your house for 10 to 12 weeks or 10 to 12 days.
That's interesting because I didn't even think about that. You don't want to go to the hospital and affect everybody in the emergency room, which could happen almost immediately. And
then on the flip side too, if you don't have it, you may walk out with it.
Yeah.
So so
avoid, even if avoid the emergency rooms altogether at this point.
Unless you're in significant respiratory distress or significantly ill. Otherwise, mild symptoms or no symptoms or just exposure, stay away from the emergency room, stay away from walk-in clinics.
But call your doctor.
Call your doctor.
And then your doctor is going to try to evaluate you by the phone.
By the phone.
Then we were talking about this last night. You said you can't even get a test. Like some people are calling you saying, hey, I want to be tested.
Right. And so the CDC is limiting the amount of, we only have a limited amount of tests. It's just going to be a matter of time before we run out of tests. So we're not going to test everybody that has very mild or no symptoms at all. That's a waste of resources. That way, somebody that actually may need it for something more serious, screening, we won't have it.
Right.
So the thing is, there's a protocol we have to follow based on recommendations from the CDC, local hospitals, local practitioners. So if you have mild symptoms, no other major issues, don't get tested. You don't need to get tested. But if you're having significant symptoms, go get tested. And there is a protocol. And also,
you say go get tested, you call your doctor.
You call your doctor, and
because you don't want to go into your waiting room.
Right.
You've got hundreds of patients in there waiting to see you, right?
Right. So you don't want to expose anybody. You call your doctor. There's also telemedicine now. So we actually have this at our disposal. We have websites, actually a local telemedicine thing that we just set up yesterday for this. So you can call this telemedicine, speak to a nurse, physician, and they'll decide whether or not you need to be tested or seen.
Is that through your office or just through Lafayette General?
Through Lafayette General, but also it's through the CDC. But Lafayette General here locally, we have something set up as far as telemedicine helpline.
Is there there's a phone number? Can we get that number? We'll put it on the.
Absolutely. It's on the Lafayette General website. It's called Help Anywhere LGMC.
Help Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
LGMC.
You just type in the computer Help Anywhere Lafayette General, and they'll direct you right to that website.
Right.
I did it yesterday. It's very easy to use.
Okay, and so then there's a way for them to actually talk to the doctor,
go over your symptoms,
and then how do you get tested if you can't go into the doctor's office? Like, what do they do?
They're setting up what they call, they're trying to set up quote unquote drive-through testing to minimize exposure to everybody else. But there is a couple little satellite clinics here that are just going to be set up for testing for the coronavirus.
Okay, so you'll be able to go somewhere and safely get tested.
Right.
Cool, man. Well, so tell us a little bit about, how long does the virus live outside of the host? So for instance, I was talking to a banker today because we were trying to decide, what the banks are doing, and they're all staying open. By the way, all the banks are open.
It's business as usual.
Business as usual, unless you have 250 or more people. Right. But the bank, one of my bank friends said, "Look, try to avoid using cash."
Well, for obvious reasons. Yeah.
And so, how long can a virus stay on?
Well, it's
surface.
It's an aerosolized virus. It's airborne virus. So in the air, the studies are showing, or not recommendation, but the discussion is that it can stay in the air for up to about 3 hours. On plastic surfaces, in cardboard and all that, up to 4 to 6 days.
No kidding. So on money, it could be 4 to 6 days.
On money or on packages from, I hate to bring up Amazon or this and that, Stitch Fix.
You look good, by the way.
Well, thank you. By your recommendation. But I don't want to panic anybody about cardboard or boxes or shipments and all that, because most of this stuff has been. Has actually been taken care of. Either they do have Lysol, they do have all those other kind of things. But.
So I guess that's surprising to me. I had no idea it would stay on cardboard or money or anything that long.
Especially plastic.
Really?
Plastic up to about 6 days.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So the thing is, good hygiene, Lysol. If you come in contact.
Yeah.
Soap, water, the alcohol-based hand wipes. My hands are all dry from all that alcohol in the last couple weeks or last couple days.
So what's going on in China? When you look at the news, they're talking about how they're starting to report less people with the virus, and then what's life look like after that?
It'll be back to normal. I mean, we have normal life after the flu every year.
Right.
We have more problems with the flu every year. You have a peak season and then a drop in incidence, and that's what we're seeing with the COVID virus too in China. So it's basically did its thing, petering out. Now it's going somewhere else. As the season changes, maybe over the summertime, in the next couple weeks, or a month or two or three, we're going to start seeing a drop in all the incidence of the coronavirus. Just like the flu, it does its thing and goes away.
Well, so we're talking about like what's it look like after this? I mean, it's gonna come back, right? I mean, it's not
Possibly.
gone forever.
Just like the flu.
Yeah.
Just like the flu. Just like other respiratory viruses.
But are we going to shut down everything every time the flu? the coronavirus comes out.
I hope not. I think because they're going to see that it is not as potent as people think, and we'll have more information at our disposal.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing you can do is hand wash. Practice good self hygiene, personal hygiene, hand washing. Cover your mouth when you sneeze.
Right.
Those
fist
kind of
bump.
Fist bump. Kid and play.
Kid and play.
Feet shake.
I was never good at that.
That's for the older group out there. Not the young millennials. They don't know what kid and play is.
So, and obviously you're not in the CIA, but I've heard that this could have been a weapon from China. Is that just a bunch of BS? Or is this something that's just? How does this just evolve and show up in 2020?
Yeah, everybody's going to have their conspiracy theory, and this is an election year. This is a ploy to destroy an economy or a test run of. Yeah, I think that's just all conspiracy right now, and I wouldn't really pay too much mind to that. The biggest thing is taking care of ourselves, from a health standpoint, and see what plays out, from a political or biochemical warfare issue. I doubt that that's an issue.
Well, I mean, you have to admit that, like, if this is going to be an issue, we are way ahead of the curve. I mean, I don't think China or Italy or Europe, for that matter, shut everything down this early on. I mean, for instance, in Louisiana, when they made that decision, we only had 33 cases. So
in Louisiana.
Yeah, in Louisiana is what I'm saying. It's like, for us to be this far ahead, it's got to help curve that that's influx into the hospital. That's
the game plan, and that's why everybody's being so proactive.
What are the doctors doing to
trying to calm everybody down?
Yeah.
And but no, the doctors are prepared. We have what we call PPEs, face masks, protection for us because we're going to come in contact with it. It's just a matter of time, and to protect us and also to protect our other patients. But the biggest thing is trying to calm down the hysteria, and it's understandable that people are nervous and concerned about this. But our job is to kind of answer questions and take care of our public health.
And you were at the hospital today, right?
I just came back about 20 minutes ago.
So what, does anybody at the hospital right now have anything or any cases that you know of?
Nope. Yeah. Nope. No, we had a meeting about all that yesterday. Nothing yet. It's just a matter of time. It is coming. It is going to be a problem.
So it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Absolutely. Just because of the spread, the drift of the virus, but it's just a matter of time. But the thing is heed caution and practice good hygiene and maybe hold off making out for a couple more months. I don't know as hard as it's going to be, but.
Well, what do you do to protect yourself? Like, if you are going out, are you going to work? I mean, is there any kind of? It sounds like what you're saying is there's no reason to be alarmed and not be afraid of going outside of the store or work, for that matter.
Right. No, and they're still recommending business as usual.
Who is recommending that?
The Lafayette Consolidated Government, the CDC, local hospitals. It's still business as usual. Now, what we're trying to do in the office and stuff is maybe talk about decreasing the amount of non-urgent hospital or non-urgent office visits, say for your wellness or just a checkup. We're trying to minimize the amount of exposure, but we're still seeing patients. The office is still open. Hospitals obviously still open. The banks are still open. The stores are still open. First responders
real
are
estate
still
company,
open. Real estate
at least
company.
Keaty Real Estate's still open.
But you wash your hands.
Well, we've got a ton of clients right now because the interest rates are I just got off the phone with one of the lenders today. Friday, it was ended with at 3.2%
That's
interest
incredible.
rates for a 30-year fix.
Can you refinance my house?
Absolutely, we can take care of that for you.
Nice.
And that's the thing. I talked to a few of the title companies because they're saying, I asked them, hey, what are your plans? And they're like, well, we're busier than we've ever been because our clients want to refinance and actually purchase homes. So they're staying open. I called the banks; they're staying open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, business as usual. I mean, just like you said, if business is good, stay with it.
Yeah. And all right, so I got a few questions here left. For those, like, how do you recover from this? Like, what is it like? I know, like, Tom, you mentioned Tom Hanks. He's got it,
Mm-hmm.
and he and his wife have it, and they're hanging out. I mean, what's it like for them? It's funny because all these people across the country that do have it, you're not seeing a lot of them post anything, and you're not seeing a lot of it, right? So what really goes down when you capture this, and what's it like for the symptoms and the period of time? I mean,
Yeah, as far as a period of time, it might be a little bit different per patient, but it'd be probably just like the flu. People could recover within a week and a half. Mild cases with this, we don't have any treatment for this. And thankfully, this is not a very potent virus. So the thing is, most of the time, obviously, people will have a lot of low-grade symptoms, if any. So if you get these low-grade symptoms of fever, cough, supportive over-the-counter medications are recommended, and also decrease the amount of exposure. Stay home for up to 2 weeks. So we usually just recommend stay well hydrated, electrolytes, water. That's going to be the main issue. Tylenol products, acetaminophen to keep your, or Motrin even, ibuprofen to keep your fever down if you're having real low-grade fevers. High-grade fever or significant change in symptoms, you need to get checked out. But that's going to be your older, sicker population. But for the most part, the symptoms are very mild.
so really just you're going to treat it exactly how you treat the flu.
Absolutely, except
no
for
antibiotics.
There's no antivirals for it. I don't believe, but they're working on that and a vaccine for potential future administration. But I mean, just like a mild case of the flu, sometimes the flu does not need to be treated unless it's fairly significant with antiviral medications. Just like this one, we don't have any treatment as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware. But the treatment is just to be supportive.
And is there? You mentioned a vaccine for future administrations. Like, what are we talking about? Would a vaccine eliminate that
particular strain? Possibly.
Completely?
I mean, look at the flu.
Is that possible?
Yeah, look at the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine is designed each year on the genetics of this flu. So every year the flu can mutate and change, and so it's what they call the genetic drift is what they base their vaccinations on. So this right here, we have idea what this virus is, COVID-19, and they're going to potentially work on a vaccine to cover against COVID-19 in the future. Now we may get a COVID-20, we may get a COVID 100. We'll see.
Right. So where do you think this originated from? I mean, I've heard, obviously we talked about how it was designed in China's labs for a weapon, but also the other explanation was, they have the markets and it came from bats in, food markets in China.
That's the biggest. That's what I've heard too. I've heard that bats, animal vector, came from bats. Bat soup. One of my. Bat soup just does not sound appealing, and
that's not something I would just order from waiter.
Yeah.
Although maybe that's a vaccine.
I mean, we eat some crazy stuff down here.
Isn't that how you get like a vaccine? You got to go to the host animal and eat that thing.
Sometimes, sometimes. But as far as is this developed in a lab or anything, I have no clue. I doubt it. Right. This is probably just a mutation of this specific species of virus.
So
from bats and bat soup.
Well, speaking of past viruses, you got the SARS virus, and you've got, all these other the flu virus, and what is in this case with this strand? What is the timeline, and how long is it going to take to get solutions for that?
Well, I mean, China, it took almost 6 months for everything to kind of calm down. But as far as the SARS and this and that was a problem back in what a decade ago, 20 years ago. The SARS, the avian flu, the swine flu, 10, 12 years ago. Those were much more potent viruses, but this one just got notoriety for being global.
Okay.
And but as far as the time frame,
so these other viruses, you're saying they didn't make it across the globe? I mean, what's the difference?
Very small. Very small.
Weather related or
travel, weather, small. They did go to different places around the world, but not to the degree of the coronavirus.
Is it because it's spreading? How's it spreading faster, or is it just traveling further?
I think it's just travel and exposure, but I may be wrong. I'm not the epidemiologist when it comes to that part. But for generally speaking, yeah, it's travel, exposure. You put a bunch of people in an airplane, you put a bunch of people in a cruise ship, put a bunch of people in a big old gathering. Your risk of exposure goes up exponentially, and so there's a lot of variants that go along with it. But yeah, this one just because it got famous for being a global issue so fast.
So why is why are they on the backside of this already? Like what's different for them than us? Is it just they had a huge influx and now, because once you get it, you can't get it again? Is that? Yeah,
you build your immune system against this, and so you get your immune system bounces up and builds memory cells to this particular virus. But the thing is, it originated. It seems like it originated in China. It did its thing, and it did its little peak and drop, and now it's our turn to peak and drop because of the drift of the actual virus. So
and maybe we're lucky to have gotten it now in spring versus at the beginning of the winter,
right?
Because I've heard that they don't know yet, but it might be that heat really affects
that's the theory, that when it gets a little warmer outside, it's not the warmth or the temperature that's going to affect the virus. It's just we're doing things now in the summer, in the springtime. We're not in a house huddled together, hanging out, kissing each other at Christmas time and this and that. So we actually do things. We're not in close quarters anymore, and so that's probably more of a reason why it goes down in the summertime. Not the heat, it doesn't do anything to the virus, but it just we're not in close contact anymore. So in fact, we're just not in close contact anymore.
So despite like what the media is portraying and what's happening across the globe as a community, do you think we're blowing it out of proportion a little bit, or is it?
It's never too bad to be proactive, and is it a little aggressive? Maybe, but in the end, when we look at it, okay, we did everything that we needed to do,
right,
to prevent a full-blown issue with this. So.
Yeah, because I guess you don't want to go back and say, man, maybe if we would have done this, not as many people would have died.
Right. I think there's a little too much hysteria with it, but as far as what everybody's doing to prevent this from happening is appropriate. But I mean, I think it's a little sensationalized, yes. But the thing is, if it saves a few lives by doing this, we did our due diligence.
Right. All right. Well, ultimately, what do you think, personally and professionally, you want the public to take away from this, and what should we really be worried about, or how should we be doing our preventive maintenance?
All you can really do is stay calm, go to work, do your normal thing, business as usual, wash your hands. They're saying elbow, fist bump, kid and play, foot wrestle. Cover your mouth when you sneeze, wash your hands. Just basic precautions for like anything else, and everything should be fine. And when we do start seeing the coronavirus here, is not to over panic. Just be smart about it. And also another thing we were talking about too is that this is going to affect a lot of the people that have kids now that the kids are out of school. Hopefully, as a community, just like any hurricane or any kind of other tragedy or issue or crisis, we as a community help each other out. So all these kids are out of school, some of the moms need to work, maybe they can kind of help with kids and this and that, and
right,
just help out as a community. But for the most part, I think this is going to come, it's going to pass, it's going to have a little lasting effect, but hopefully for not too long. And
do you think there's any chance of this getting extended as far as like the public shutdown, the public school shutdown? Do you think any chance is going to go further than April 14th?
I hope not. 13th? I hope not, but there's a possibility depending on what we're about to see.
Mm-hmm.
So
when do you think we're going to know a little bit more about where we are?
every hour's changing. Every hour changes, every day changes. The protocol and recommendations that we had yesterday or the day before may very well change by today, by Monday, by Tuesday. Right. So really, it just depends on what we're starting to see and what the newer recommendations follow.
Awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for being here. One more time, where does one go to get more information or do the virtual help hotline? What is that?
The one we have locally here is called Help Anywhere at Lafayette General, or LGSA or LGH. But it's Help Anywhere, Lafayette General website. Any of your healthcare hospitals, their websites, CDC, the local news media, Channel 3, Channel 10, was it Open Channel, PBS, etc. But you can have more information on that. But the local hospital websites, Our Lady of Lourdes, Lafayette General, will have a lot more information too. Also, your primary provider, their nurses, they'll have all the information at hand if needed.
Awesome. We're going to put all of that into this post. And I can't thank you enough, man. Thanks for being here.
You bet. Stay healthy.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
You bet.